Hello and welcome back to another macro day. After a little short break, we have returned to bring you, of course, the greatest of Scriptcase, and that is, of course, macros. So in today's video, I have a little special for you. So let's dive in, shall we? Hello and welcome back to Macro Day. My name is Jamie and this is, of course, Macro Day, where we are diving into macros. But with today's special, well, we are going to be diving into multiple macros in one video. And of course, it's going to be all the macros that we have missed while we were on holiday. Okay, so starting off, we have here the SC app menu exist _item. And this is, of course, one of those smart macros that will help you keep your dynamic menu clean, organized, and responsive. Now, we have covered some of these app menu macros already, and, they've been mentioned, but they haven't been fully covered. So we have today, first of all, two of such macros. The first being the SC _app menu _exist _item. Now, its core purpose is vital for dynamic menu management. It checks whether a specific menu item already exists within the dynamic menu. So this is a menu that we have built here on the fly using Scriptcase, and you can see here we have the SC app menu _create, and that basically returns true, and then if the item is present, it is false. Now, the basic rule of true false check is the foundation for super intelligent menus that we have here in Scriptcase, and that can add, update, or remove items precisely when we need them, preventing duplicates and, of course, ensuring accuracy within your menu. And you can dynamically create that and make those dynamic adjustments as you need to. So where does this menu, or does this detective, should I say, operate? Because that's what this macro does. So let's type it in here. So we don't have it in this menu yet. You see here we have the SC app menu reset as well as the create. So we first reset our menu here at the top, and then we create our menu right here, and then we add here our items. Now I do have two other menus here. Now we should maybe have a look at that quickly before we continue. And there you can see the menu running. So we have here some menu items in here, and all of these are basically manually / dynamically added, because we can add if-else statements in here or anything else we want, and then hide a menu item as and when we need to. Now, with today's macro, or one of today's macros, we have the SC _app menu _exist _item. And that is then closed with brackets, and off we go. And then within this, we can add then our menu item, as well as then the item ID. Now, with that, you can then check if, well, a menu item exists. So in this case, I would choose then here, for instance, menu code 1, that's what that is, and then the item ID, so item ID, say 90, which is the item number I have provided to the items or menu links, should I say, or menu items that I have added within this dynamic menu. The one that you can see right here. Yeah, so that is how each of these links here are created. So we have here the Scriptcase by Jamie link, and we have that here at the end, Scriptcase by Jamie, and that then takes you then to my website. So the syntax is pretty straightforward. You have then the menu name here, as well as then the item ID. So if you do have menu items assigned, note that then the item ID is assigned automatically by Scriptcase to your menu items, and then you can still check here, for instance, if that item ID exists, and then we can either perform something, update a menu item maybe, or maybe add a new menu item and so forth. So in here, for instance, we can say if and then else, and then just like that we can then make quite a few adjustments in here, and then just check, well, first of all, does our menu item here exist? So let's do that. Let's place that here within our if statement, and I will comment this one here out, and then just like that we can then use this macro and then make adjustments here to our menu. So if item number 90 exists, then what I will do is I will replicate it. Otherwise, then what I will replicate here maybe the comparisons here and place that in there, and then just see how that looks then. So if I just go ahead and run, let's see what happens then within our menu. So we see no changes here, and that is very simply because we need to make some further adjustments here. We have here the item code, and if item 90, we have item 90 here that exists already, and we need to then apply this a new item number. Okay, so we can't have the same item number twice. So here I will apply number 3 and then call that number 4. And now if I go ahead and run that again, those new menu items have been added just by then making that slight adjustment. So it is important to make sure that when you do add new items to adjust then also manually the item number, as I just done so. Now, as you see, that checks whether that is available, and it is available. So it then duplicates here the Scriptcase by Jamie, and if it was not available, then it would add, for instance, a new item called then comparisons. Now we do have further options where we can then update the item, but that is of course a very different macro. And I'm sorry, that is not our second menu macro, I'm afraid. Now we do have very common use cases for this. So when you want to dynamically update menu entries at runtime, adjust your labels, maybe targets or parents, whenever you need to, preventing duplicate menu items. So that is, pretty important. So ensuring that you have unique menu items appear only when you require them. And then you can also build conditional menus based on permissions or roles that you have within your groups, tailoring that to the different user types as you need them. And then you can also maintain, of course, a much cleaner and smarter menu system throughout maybe a multi-user system, which is generally what the most of us would want to use Scriptcase for, well, these platforms anyway, because you can build immense systems with this. And that will of course help you keep your navigation nice and structured, as well as relevant to what the user is currently using or should see. Now, as you've noticed, we do have other related macros for this app menu reset, app menu create, the add item and so forth. Some of these we have already covered within other macro videos, and some of them not. Now it is important that we have then also the app menu remove item. So that is also one of today's macros that we can then check out, because that then allows us to remove an item. So here I can say remove item 90. So I'll say item 90, Scriptcase by Jamie, and so forth. And then with that, I can actually remove all of this that is not needed in here. And then just like that, I will actually remove the item 90 from the menu if it doesn't exist. Now we want to change that around. So let's say here, if it does exist, then we're going to place that here and comment this one here out. And now if I run it, it will remove item 90 because it exists. And then just like that, you can then check if something is there in the menu, then maybe I want to switch something around, remove the item, whichever it is that you are needing. So that is a pretty awesome macro as well, and that is of course a second macro in today's video, and you can use this to declutter your menu basically, so that you're responsive and or tree menu applications, you want to use it there, and then typically it will be most valuable during the menu's construction or in initial phases, as we have set up here on application init. And then with that, you can then just go ahead and dynamically create the menu that you need using some of these macros. And if you wanted to, then maybe change that so you remove an item on a user role, then just replace the if-else statement instead of here the exist item. Then maybe here we would want to use the user role option. So let me comment this out. Comment that one out, and we can create here our new if-else statement here, and then just like that we can then get started again. And then here we can have maybe our user underscore role, and that then, well, that then doesn't equal, or it should equal our admin. So just like that, then we can then remove an item. If our user here, for instance, is not admin, then we remove the item 90. And if you want to adjust that, you can say if they are admin, then we remove it, or however you want to do. So here we are removing it anyway. So I could comment that one out. And then if they are admin, then maybe we want to place something in there. So then we can just copy that one in there and then add a new item into this dynamic menu for that specific user. So again, for the app menu remove item, there are quite a few options, and it's again one of those macros for the dynamic menu, and it allows you then to maybe filter role-based for your applications, for your menu, so that you can highlight or display only the applications and links that you actually need within your applications. So this is actually quite a powerful macro for you to use. And again, it is related here to the app menu. It's an entire family of macros which are then for you available to create dynamic menus. Now, it is important to note that this macro generally doesn't throw any errors if something doesn't exist. So you want to make sure you debug it nicely and then maybe remove it if you need to, and so forth. And that is for the app menu exist item. That is very important. The remove item. And then you can maybe use the exist item to check if something is there, and that will then also help you with debugging. So there's a few ways on how you can actually use these macros within your applications, and that is then pretty important. Welcome to Scriptcase by Jamie, where we turn complex coding into practical skills even you can master. Join our exclusive membership today. Our membership includes access to in-depth tutorials, pre-prepared scripts, an advanced knowledge base, as well as so many tips, all designed to elevate your Scriptcase skills. Dive into our new user-friendly portal, connect and share, learn with a community of developers that are all passionate about Scriptcase. Stay ahead of the curve with our new channel, get exclusive content, expert-created projects, and help when you need it. Join a thriving community of developers, benefit from networking opportunities, community support, as well as exclusive member events. Are you ready to transform your Scriptcase skills? Join Scriptcase by Jamie today, visit our website, and become part of something a little bigger. Okay, so another macro that we have today is actually the SC master value, which is a very interesting one, because the SC underscore master underscore value macro, well, this macro, it's got a big secret, right? Its core purpose is to synchronize real-time updates from a detail application back to its master application or its parent form, whichever you please. So you link two forms together, and then using this macro you can then update your second form. Now I need to see if I have tables here that I can use this with, but I think so. I think we will find something here. So let's have a look. We have students and student subjects. So I'll create form students. And if anything, we can just update the database really quickly. And then here, oops, we have then also the student subjects. Okay, so let's create both of those. And they are both generated also. Now the form student subjects, let's open that one up. And then in here we can go to the SQL and we can say where student underscore ID equals, let's add some hyphens around that, and student underscore ID. Okay, so just like that, we have enforced then the key on this. So when we run this form now, it will always ask us for the student ID and then present that student ID information. And then just like that, I can now come here to my form and then set up here the master detail. Okay, so in here, I will then add here the student and its subject. And I will leave the create a new block. So we have it nicely formatted, and the label, well, let's just call that subject. And then we will know what it is within the students block. And then here I can choose then the form student subjects. Click next. I don't require the foreign key to be set, so I will select next. And then here the student ID, we are passing here the field student ID, and that is then what we have here. So I will remove here the margin as well as the border and background from the other form. Here the student subjects form once it's loaded here, and save that. And then just like that, we have then our form ready. And then we have then our form with our subjects and our student subjects, and I can scroll through and then I have all of the student information here as needed. Okay, so neither of these forms actually include an extra field here for us to update. So what we would then need to do is then come here to our database, for instance, and then we can just adjust here the database very quickly. That is for our dynamic menu. So let's come to the other database, which is this one. And then here we have our students and our student subjects. Now here I want to alter the table and add an extra field in here. So here I will click then the plus symbol, and here I will say subjects, for instance, and that will then automatically link to the subject table. We don't want that. I'll just set that to an integer and null, and then save that. And that gives me then an extra field here called subjects. Now here in form students, I will then need to come here to application and synchronize table to update now the form with this new subjects field. Now on edit fields, I have subjects available. It has been automatically placed within the lower block. So I need to drag it up here to our actual form, and then that is then available here now within our top form. Now our subjects here doesn't include anything either, so ideally there we would also add a field that matches, or what we could actually do is just come in here and add a new field, and just like that is not linked then to the database or anything. I won't create a new block for it, and here I will say count, for instance. I'll just go create, and here I'll set an initial value of say 5. Now if I run that, we have then a grade, a count, but the count is not being set with the initial value. That's okay, we can force that. So let's go and remove that there. And then here on the events, on load, we will set the count will now equal 5. Okay, so now if I run that, the count now equals 5. There we go. And what I will want to do then, for instance, is update here the students, and here I will also go ahead and do that. I'll say on load subjects equals 5. Okay, so now with both of the forms updated, we have the field added here, subjects and count. Both of those are indicated as a 5, so I clicked my right mouse button and it went back. So we have those now indicated in the form. Now here on our form student subject, we have the macro SC master value. So let me add that in here first of all, SC underscore master underscore value. And it is just like that. And then what we want to do then basically is add here first of all our object name, and then here comma, and then our value. Now our value in this case would equal then here our count field as an example. Okay, and then with that we can then adjust our object name, and our object name is then, for instance, our field. So here we have count, and I save that, and that would then update the other field. But now the thing is, we haven't actually named that count here. We have named that here subjects, so we would need to adjust that to subjects, and then here the value. So let me save that, and then what I can actually do is here run an Ajax event on this form, and then go new Ajax, and then here on the count, and then on change. So whenever we change that number, we then update here our subjects value. So let's give that a go. Let's run that here, our subjects form, right? And then we load then here our form students. And now when I update 6 here, it updates here my subjects. See, just like that. And that is the whole purpose of this SC master value. So it is a pretty powerful macro really, especially when you are working with master detail forms. So I hope you like this one, because I'm sure many of you have master detail forms. And of course the options are, well, there's lots of options, because you can use this in multitude of events. So on after insert, on before insert, on before and after, and yada yada. So you can use it in any of those events that you need to, pretty much on validate as well, and then make those changes as you need to within here the parent, the slave form. Okay, so you have here the master or parent, and then this would be then the child or slave, whichever way you like. Hopefully that doesn't get flagged anywhere for anything silly, but that's essentially what this is. So this being then the child form, you can then go ahead and apply that here using the SC master value macro, and that will then update your master form. Okay, so with that, you can also add other options in there. So you can update text fields, for instance, which is pretty good. And, you know, it's just not just for numbers. So it's pretty awesome to actually use. But maybe that will also be in a members only video, I'm afraid. So we'll see whether we create another video expanding further on some of these macros, because especially this master value macro, or should I really say it properly, right? SC underscore master underscore value macro. Well, this macro is pretty damn powerful. Okay, so we do have another macro, and well, we had the app menu exist already. We had the add already. Okay, so what else do we have? We have the SC make link. Now this is a nice macro. I use this one quite often, and especially within grid applications. So if I come here and create a new grid application, and this can be on anything. So I just choose here the countries. That would do. Click create. Transforming ideas into reality. One line of code at a time. This is the essence of Scriptcase by Jamie. Specializing in robust web applications and complex databases, we provide solutions that power businesses and drive innovation. From e-commerce systems to custom management software, our development work is tailored to meet your unique needs, using Scriptcase's powerful features to build faster and smarter. Hear from our clients who have transformed their operations with our expert development services. Are you ready to upgrade your digital solutions? Contact Scriptcase by Jamie today and bring your project to life with our expert development services. And then here we have a very basic grid application with then here some content. Now what we want to do then, for instance, is have a custom field here. So I will add a new field and I will call that my_link and then leave that as a text type and click create. Okay, so I don't need to do anything else here. You can make styling adjustments and everything there if you choose to, but then otherwise we just want to come here to on record. And then here within the on record, it's one of the nicest places to actually use this, because then we can actually change the link as we need to for each record. So basically every single line we have here can have a custom link dynamically applied to that application. Okay, so what we do then is we come in here to our on record. We have then my link. So let's call it what it is. My link equals then here sc_make_link, and we have our brackets as per usual. And then in here we can add then here our link to which we want to, well, send this to. So here, for instance, we can say google.com, and then if I go ahead and run, so let's not forget to add the HTTPS in here, and then we can save that. Now it is important to set here your URL as your text file or your new field, should I say, as a URL data type. And then once you have that, we can then go ahead and run that. And then we have then here HTTPS Google on each of these, and we can just link that back to Google or anywhere else that we then need to. Now that is one way of adding a dynamic link to your application. Now it's important to note that you can here also add parameters in here. So I can add a comma and then add some parameters in here, equals my variable, for instance, and so forth. And then just like that, we can then go ahead and, well, add more parameters if we wanted to. That could equal, for instance, a global variable. And just like that, you have then a link with custom variables or parameters, should I say, attached to your application, and you can send them to wherever you need to dynamically, which is pretty awesome. So you can redirect people to download PDFs even, or give other links, change the link even, so that you have the link displayed a little nicer and so forth. But that is of course maybe in the members only video. So next up we have another very important macro, and with that we have seen here our links and so forth. I'll save that. We have then here made adjustments to the database, and we're going to return here back to the form students subjects. Now here we have made a change here for the SC master value. Now it is important to note that I'm going to make an adjustment now, and it will actually stop or change how this functions, because basically it will stop working. Because once you update the subjects form and it updates then here the students form, which is how we had this running. So if I go ahead and run that once more, just to remind you, when I update here the 5 and change that to 8, it will update here the subject. Now what I want to do is, instead of changing there the master value, I want to in fact redirect the user somewhere else. So here I'm going to say sc_redir, or redirect, that is meant to be, and then from here we're going to send them here to our menu_code_1. And then if I go ahead and click on run, enter the ID, and if I add then here the 8, for instance, that, as you see, just redirects me now to another application. Now it's very important to note that when you use this macro, this SC redir or redirect, that you then finalize anything you have done on the previous form. So in this case, where I have the form, student subjects, and I update the students form here the subject's value, then I will want to finalize that and possibly actually update the table directly from the student subjects form, so from this child form, before I then go ahead and redirect the user. Otherwise, nothing will have changed. So in this case, it's really just to show you here the SC redirect. So I will remove that from there. And then what we can do here, for instance, for the form students, here on load, we can then come here to on after insert, and then here maybe I would want to redirect the user. Now, it is very important to check out the sidebar of macro helps here, because these are really actually very important that you have these very easily accessible to you here, because right there we have here the commit trans, which is then the option for us to commit this transaction, and I can change here the connection details or actually update them, which I should actually do because I have multiple databases, which we did see there earlier. So I should actually in fact add here the con_MySQL1 so that it updates the correct actual database, con_MySQL1, and then that should then update here my con_MySQL1 database as correct just before it actually redirects me. So it finalizes any transaction I've made on this form. So if I go ahead and run this, for instance, we have then here our basic form, and if I change here, for instance, the subjects 6 and save that, it's going to go ahead and save anything I've done there. Now this is actually, note that I've placed this on after insert. So what we can do then is copy this to on after update, and then see that same thing again. But now notice then here that the subjects here has not really changed. So if I click save again now, it then sends me to the menu just as we have actually set that up. Now back in here, we have here the con_MySQL. Now I would actually get rid of that and then make sure that transaction has happened on whichever database is available here. Now it is important though that you can add those there and then commit the entire transaction. Now here we are actually should be talking about here the SC redirect, of course. Now with this macro on redirect, we can also send parameters. So here again I can say param1 equals here my field, for instance, my client ID field, and that then, well, we might have extra parameters here. On parameter 2 would then maybe equal here the global value that we have set, and we can then have maybe another parameter, parameter 3, and that then equals some variable that I have set somewhere. And just like that, then you can make various adjustments to how the SC redirect works. But that isn't the only one, because like I said, this is pretty powerful because you can also define which page that is. So if I go SC redir again, and then here we have first of all our page, and let's say menu code 1 again, and then here we have a comma, and then we have another comma because we have our parameters normally, and then in here we can add then, for instance, our underscore blank, and that will ensure that it opens up a whole new page. And we also have the SC reader here, and we could maybe open that here. Let's add that again, menu underscore code underscore 2, for instance, whichever it is. And then here I'm adding my commas, 2 commas again. And then here I'm going to say, for instance, it's a modal window that I actually want to open, and comma that again. I need to add 2 hyphens then and another comma, and then I can start adding my size. So here, for instance, I can say 800 by 600, and that will then actually open a modal window instead of redirecting the user entirely, which is pretty awesome, right? Now, as I mentioned, it's very important to always commit your transaction before sending a user elsewhere. Otherwise, well, it just might not work as you expect. Okay, so with that, we have covered quite a few macros. We do still have one left. I have a funny feeling we actually done this one already though. So it is the SC underscore reset underscore APL underscore default macro. And well, you'd use this macro in your calendar, chart, grid, form, control, and just like the majority of these macros, other than of course the master. Other than, of course, here our SC master value, which is only for master detail forms, grids also essentially, but basically forms because you're not going to change anything in the grid. So forms only. And then basically the rest of these macros were covered, especially now the SC reset underscore APL underscore default macro is, well, they can be used in a great deal of applications and in various events typically. Now, this macro that I'm talking about, let me type it in here. So it's SC underscore reset underscore APL underscore default. And then we have our brackets and we close it. So just like that, it takes no parameters. It is as it is. So don't try and adjust it. But then basically after you've performed this redirect, for instance, you may want to reset this application because it's pretty, well, that's the whole purpose of it, isn't it? To redirect to a new application and then, well, this could actually break the link and then allow a different application to take control. You're making changes here by using this one. So the whole purpose is to remove the control of an application, right? So that's what this does. SC reset application default, just setting the application to its default values. So that when basically a user navigates to the project homepage, basically they automatically redirect to a specific application. And using the SC reset application default macro as we have here, well, that will break the link, allowing a different application to take full control basically, or simply letting the end user to land on the main menu without any forced redirect. Now, using this macro, like I said, you can use it in quite a few applications, but you mainly want to use it on the onScriptInit event, as it needs to be called pretty early within the application's lifecycle, ideally before redirecting users. Okay, so that is pretty important. So basically, it is pretty simple to use. It has some awesome powers and it's quite handy to use. Now, you may remember the AC APL default. See, there we are. That's the one because it's the standard macro we did previously, which is the APL default. Now, that is the same as this one, but then without the reset. Now, you may remember that from a previous video. And here I have app. APL, yeah, it's correct. So APL default. So then just like that, we then reset the application to its default settings. And here we're resetting it, if that makes sense. Okay, so by using this, you would normally open a form in maybe update mode. And then you create a button maybe on a different page. And that could then go maybe to the same form. But then it forces the insert mode to add a new customer, for instance. So you can reset the form to its default value. So we have here our reset, our default reset option. So say, for instance, here we redirect the user. We have our a global set to maybe say, let's call it insert. And this insert equals, say, yes. Okay, and then here we would then say reset the application defaults. Okay, so here we would then say reset the application defaults, and then we would then maybe check if our insert here exists, and then if insert, and say if I insert here, well, if that equals our yes, then we would then here use our SC APL default macro, which we have here. Okay, and that one we would then maybe change how the form works. So here we would then say our customer form, for instance, and that would then go to insert mode or update mode or whatever it is that you have going there. And of course we can add an else in there, right? And add an else, and then we just copy that here. We then set it to update mode, whichever you then need to. And then just like that, you've basically reset the application. So let me comment this one out so it doesn't get confusing. And we have also reused that here. So that is run here. And then it basically runs through and then changes then the default aspect of the form. Now, as I was saying, it is pretty important to use this then on the on-script init so that the form changes. So we can check that here. Now, if I come here to on-script init, let me check and remove that from here. Save that and come to on-script init, paste that here. And then with a few adjustments here, so we have here our insert first of all, and then what we would do then basically is sc redir and redirect then the user to, say for instance here, our form students underscore subjects page, and I'll copy that and paste that in here. And then that will then reset the form as we need to. So here I say insert yes, and if I run, and here I say then yes for the insert from students, and then that is then taking us here to our students subjects page and redirecting us, basically setting that up. Now, in general, you can also reset then also on the page as you're loading it and just change then also. So then just like that, we can then use here the SC redirect as well as the reset application defaults. That's quite a few macros we've actually covered today, and I think we have maybe one more macro, which was actually the remove item, and that we have here already. So we've also covered that one today. So I believe we've pretty much covered all of them then. So pretty awesome then, right? So we have then quite a few macros in today's special macro video. I hope you have enjoyed all of them. Of course, I will be placing all of the names and everything down in the description and so forth, so that you have all of them there, and hopefully that you can then learn on how to use these macros. And as you see, they're all pretty powerful and all very simple to use, so that is pretty awesome and very easy for anyone really just to apply, whether that be for dynamic menus as we have had, or whether for redirecting a user, applying a link to a grid application, whatever that may be. You can do all of those things now with it, either of the macros, well, with the macros that we have shown here today. Now, of course, if you found this video helpful, please give me a thumbs up down below. Let me know that you actually like this. All of your support is more than welcome. And of course, if you would like to watch more macro videos, then there is the subscription button. If you want to click that one, then go ahead and click that. Otherwise, there's also the notifications if you want to know when new videos are out. That is also very helpful, and that helps the channel maybe to grow a little more. Now, I should note that the main thing that keeps this channel alive is, of course, work from you. And if you have anything, then please let me know. I'll be happy to work with you to create the platforms that you are wanting or needing for your business, so that you can maybe, well, learn a lot faster, even whatever it may be, some training, some consultation, or maybe some development. Just simply reach out and let me know, and I'll be happy to help you with your new Scriptcase project. So thank you very much for watching. I hope again you have enjoyed this video, and I look forward to, of course, new macro days every Friday right here on Scriptcase by Jamie.